They told us kids in the 80s that this toy was made to break and you could put it back together. Well, they lied to us. Let's talk about Manglords. Welcome back to the Junk Room. It's me, the Junkman, coming back at you with another video to talk Manglords or Manglor. Which one? I mean, if you have one, it's Manglor. If you have two, it's Manglords, I guess. And go ahead and tell me, you're not pronouncing it right, Junkman. You're not pronouncing it right. Well, that's what the commercial said, and that's what I'm going to say, Manglords. Now, I remember these toys back in, they were first released in 83 and read into 85. And I remember seeing the commercial on television a lot, but I never had it. And one thing that always comes to my mind when I see this toy line today is when I was little, me and my best friend Boyd, who lived across the street, he was more of a best friend by convenience, sadly to say, but I did like hanging out with him sometime. But he was into weird stuff like church and softball. I never really understood that. But anyway, we would hang out in the woods, and every now and then we get stuck with his little brother. I had to tag along, and his mom would be like, if you go in the woods and your brother wants to go, take him. Well, I came up with a plan, and I told him, hey, high up in those trees in the woods live the Manglords, and they love to eat little brothers. And he would often not go to the woods with us because he'd be so scared of the Manglords. And I can remember finding him on Facebook years ago, and he said, hey, you remember I used to be scared to go in the woods because of Manglords? He said he still remembers that day. He rides by and sees those woods at the old house, and he thinks about being scared to go in there because of the Manglords. Well, I forgot they were in a toy line. I just remember telling him about that. Then, you know, in the 90s when I started collecting toys, I was like, that's where I came up with that name. I thought I was a genius. Came up with a good name for toys. But what exactly were these toys? Well, they looked like they were made out of clay, but I guess they weren't technically made out of clay. According to the box, they were made out of the strangest stuff on earth. Not sure exactly what that is. I guess I could have read the back of the box as a kid, but again, I never had them as a kid. But you could take these figures, rip them apart, stick them back together, and it looked like you didn't even rip them apart. And you could just rip them anywhere. Now, here's where the trouble comes in, because it seems that you had to rip them off at certain places to put them back together, but the commercial and everything else looks like you could just rip them apart. And the thing about these toys, you could rip them anywhere, but you wouldn't get it back together unless you ripped them right at the right place. Now, they wanted you to rip off an arm, put it on one of the other Manglords, and switch them around, but it was very disappointing for kids. In fact, this toy line in 1983 was often ranked as one of the worst Christmas toys of that year. As you can see here, not only did it get number 1 for the worst figure, its mountain playset got number 2. According to this article, the toy was given to a bunch of kids who tore the figures apart but couldn't place them back together. It wasn't as easy as the commercial led you to believe.
Throughout time, people have asked, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Maybe it was a Manglor, like Manglor Demon. You can pretend to hatch Manglor Dragon and Manglizard, too, each sold separately in a make-believe egg. You can stretch them, squash them, take them apart. They'll return almost like new to their original forms. So if you want to hatch up some fun, you can crack open a Manglor. The Manglors, Manglor Demon, Manglor Dragon, and Manglizard, each sold separately from Ideal.
But let's talk about these figures and take a closer look at them. Again, I never had this toy line. I always saw the commercial and wanted them, but I guess I didn't want them enough to ask for them for my birthday or Christmas. I mean, I wanted them, but I didn't want to substitute Star Wars figures for them. No way. And I think my uncle may have had one of these because he used to tell me, hey, why don't you come over and play with my Manglord? I want to show you my Manglord. It shoots this special goo. You're going to love it. And I never did get to see his Manglord or whatever goo it shot out. I'm guessing it's some kind of slime. Slime was really big in the 80s. So maybe he was talking about the playset because it did have some slime with it. Let's take a look at the playset. Here is the Manglord Mountain, Volcanic Lava Pit Fortress. This came with a Manglord figure and a bag of non-toxic water-based lava. And it was aimed for kids 3 and up. And one thing cool about this, it came with an Iron Maiden. And I don't mean that cool pop band. I'm talking about Iron Maiden, a little cage to put the Manglord figure in. Well, that's a look at the mountain, but what about these figures? Well, let's take a closer look at them. One thing that was always cool about them is they came inside these plastic eggs with a Manglord dinosaur-like creature inside. And again, as the box says, you can play with it, store it in the egg, break it apart, put it back together again. Sure, right, Ideal. Sure you can. The first figure didn't come in an egg. It was just this figure that looked kind of like Swamp Thing. It also came with the playset that we looked at, but could be sold separately. Then in 1985, when they expanded the line, they came inside these plastic eggs. And these have some really crazy names, like Mega Lizard and Megalo Dragon, and a bunch of other ones I don't think I can pronounce, so I'm not going to even try to pronounce them. And I think you'll be thankful for that. If not, you would be in the comment section trying to type out how I can pronounce each one. So let's just move past me trying to pronounce these names that I'll never be able to pronounce. I mean, after all, I still at 50 can't say the word Jerusalem or Koshish. So you know I'm not going to be reading these strange creature names. Overall, Megalords was a nice little toy, and I wish they worked the way they said they did. But sadly they didn't. Megalords were kind of here and there and forgotten about after 1985. But today, they're actually worth a lot of money. You can find one of the eggs still in the package for, if you're just looking to buy one of these still in the package, look to spend somewhere between $250 to $300. If it's that playset, it's probably going to be more. That playset rarely comes up in the box, or if it's loose, even complete. Now I do see parts and pieces to the playsets for about $50 to about $80. But the playset's pretty rare. They didn't even show it in the commercial or even in the back of the package. It was like they released the Mountain playset and didn't want anyone to even know about it. But I know this is kind of a quick video. I mean, how much can I say about the Manglords? I mean, it was a small toy line released by Ideal. It upset a lot of kids when they found out they could tear this thing apart and it would be ruined because they couldn't put it back together. Other than that, there's not really much more I can say. Other than they had a really weird ad where they said, what came first, the chicken or the egg? It was the Manglords. It just kind of seemed a little odd. But that's a look at Manglords. Let me know in the comments section below. Did you have these? Did you want them? Do you remember the commercial like I did? And if you did get them, would you ever play with it the way they promised? Well, let me know that and more in the comments below. And as always, thumbs up on my content. Subscribe to the channel. We'll talk again soon.
Hey, Junkman channel popping though.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.